In the days leading up to TET, 11 Viet Cong battalions, mostly local units, had assembled for the main assaults inside Saigon. The spearhead force was the C-10 local sapper commando battalion. Outside the city, elements of the 5th, 7th, and 9th Viet Cong divisions and 2 independent battalions were positioned to attack American bases, block roads, and reinforce the city units. The government forces responsible for the defense of Saigon were the South Vietnamese Army's 5th Ranger Group, 3 regional militia units, and 2 military police battalions. However, 2 elite airborne battalions were also in the city, at Tan Son Airport, on their way north. The only American units inside Saigon were the 716th U.S. Army Military Police Battalion and a Marine Security Guard detachment. The Viet Cong plan for the attacks inside Saigon had been worked out to the last detail. Most of the assaults were to be carried out by units of C-10. The Independence Palace, the offices of the South Vietnamese president, would be hit first. Next on the list was the Joint General Staff headquarters of the South Vietnamese Army, near to the Americans' main headquarters in Vietnam. Tan Son Nhut Air Base was to be seized, along with the South Vietnamese Navy headquarters and the American Embassy, the main symbol of U.S. power in Vietnam. The government radio station would also be occupied. After the initial assaults by C-10, the main Viet Cong battalions were to sweep into the city from all sides to support the offensive. In the early morning of January 31st, 1968, Viet Cong units the length and breadth of South Vietnam surged into action. In more than 100 cities and towns, shock assaults by Viet Cong sapper commandos were followed by wave after wave of supporting troops. In Saigon, as one attack after another had erupted, there was complete confusion. Neither the South Vietnamese Army nor the Americans had a plan to deal with anything like this. The Army's units were under strength and scattered, while the American MPs of the 716th Battalion had been left out of the alert issued the day before. Only 300 military police were on duty. Of the many attacks the Viet Cong unleashed in Saigon on the morning of January 31st, the assault on the government radio station was the best organized. The station was captured, and the plan was to broadcast a tape of Ho Chi Minh calling for the population to rise up against the government. Ho's message never was broadcast. The station's electricity was cut off by the army in the first minutes of the attack. After a fierce 6-hour battle, government soldiers, including paratroopers brought in from the airport, succeeded in forcing out the surviving Viet Cong. Barely a mile away, at the Independence Palace and the nearby Navy headquarters, the Viet Cong attackers had been driven away from their main targets within minutes. The sapper team had been forced to hole up in a nearby building. The fight lasted more than 15 hours. In the end, nearly all the Viet Cong inside were killed.